Hello everyone and welcome to this new video where we are going to see together the incredible story that happened in Derby Hospital. It all started in April 2010 when the whole city of Derby put on its 31st to welcome the Queen of England who comes to inaugurate the new Derby Hospital. Shortly after this inauguration, many patients and employees of this hospital will complain that paranormal phenomena are happening inside. Many of them will report seeing a strange silhouette moving inside the hospital. The rumor will quickly spread and make the rounds of the press. This case will then be taken very seriously by many people. A historian will therefore decide to look into the subject in order to understand what is happening. He will try to collect many testimonies in order to unravel the mystery. Most of these testimonies say that they saw a dark silhouette walking in the corridors of the hospital, and some of them even say that they saw this silhouette cross the walls, and it would be certain that it is a ghost, even if some testimonies diverge. They all agree that the figure is near the morgue, and the hospital director will even go so far as to send a letter to all the hospital employees to clearly express his fears and that he was going to take steps to stop these paranormal phenomena. The director of the hospital will call on the priest of Derby Cathedral so that he can perform an exorcism near the morgue. Officially, the hospital at the cathedral will deny having performed an exorcism near the morgue. However, it will be many witnesses who report having seen the priest practice this exorcism in this hospital. The most disturbing thing is that, after the passage of this priest, all the employees received a new letter indicating that they should no longer talk about paranormal phenomena or the ghost. If they saw it, historians who investigated these phenomena and the history of the hospital would have discovered some very strange things. The near-death apparitions would be related to the history of the site and on which the building would have been built, and notably rely on the fact that there would have been a huge scandal during the construction of this hospital because it would have been built on an old historical site that would have been a very old Roman road. More than 1500 years ago, England was effectively under the control of the Roman Empire, and this hospital is said to have been built on the remains of that empire. According to the historian, these ghosts could therefore be ancient Romans who roamed the hospital for thousands of years. Other people who have investigated this phenomenon confirm that it would be ancient Romans because the ghosts would move as in their time, where the hospital did not exist, and therefore the walls did not exist. On the other hand, since the unofficial passage of the exorcist in this hospital, neither the ghost nor any other paranormal phenomenon was recorded. The witnesses have now remained very silent. And so, we may never know the truth about this case. Where begins in 1963 in Arcachon, Dr. Queen's clinic seems to be the scene of different very strange events. The building would be the victim of inexplicable rockfalls. The case that would have happened in the Arcachon clinic would be one of the three largest cases of the late 20th century. For those who do not know what it means, a poltergeist generally, these are paranormal phenomena that will be linked in particular to movements of objects. And in the Arcachon clinic there are notably falling stones of unknown origin. They appeared from nowhere and almost never had a trajectory, as if they were falling from the sky. Legend has it that the sick who stood on the terrace received many stones of unknown origin. Obviously at first, everyone will think that it is a simple joke and that he is surely doing this to annoy people. But these incidents continued far too often. In total, Dr. Keno reported over 300 mysterious stone attacks from nowhere. Unsure of how to proceed, he sought help from a colleague, and together they tried to find a solution. During the investigation by his older brother, not much was discovered. Yet he believed these events were linked to a 17-year-old girl, as stones were thrown whenever she was present and ceased when she was away. As a result, they will try to put several things in place to try to better understand the phenomenon. In particular, they will repeatedly sit on the terrace with other patients. They will notice that indeed, the stone throwing will not bring anyone down, and despite their best efforts, they will never be able to determine where these stones may have come from. It is as if they appear from nowhere and have almost no trajectory, as if they fall from the sky. They could rule out definitively that this is a joke, so they're going to call the police. Because even though the stone throwing never hurt anyone, they really don't want the police to start this departure. They're not going to take this story very seriously, but they're still going to organize some plans to try to determine the origin of these demonstrations. After that, they will also carry out other operations, but despite all their efforts, they will also be so many times of the phenomenon, but will never be able to determine where the stones can come from, or even how this is possible. And what makes the phenomenon even more mysterious is that after several weeks of investigation by the police will eventually determine that it is not a joke or a hoax. But they will never be able to determine the origin of these phenomena. They will say that it is surely a poltergeist. Scientists will then be called in to try to investigate the phenomenon, but they too will witness the phenomenon and will never be able to find solutions to this problem. In total, this story will have lasted more than 5 months, from the middle of May 1963 until the beginning of September 1963. The stone throwing would have stopped just as abruptly and mysteriously as it had begun. Today, this technique has been completely razed and now replaced by a huge building. She will never be able to keep secrets. Many of you probably have a pet or even a cat. And in our world, you have to know that there are certain beliefs, lending supernatural dances to the cat. For some, they would be able to have multiple lives, and for others, they would be able to feel very special energies. Today we will look at the case of Oscar, the cat that happened to have the dead, located in the hospital of Rhode Island in the United States. You will find this famous cat that would have been adopted a few months ago when the little dog was only 2 months old at start. Oscar is not very affectionate and spends his time hiding in the hospital. He is a little afraid of everyone and does not approach patients, but after a while, a very strange phenomenon will happen. One day, the cat will make the decision to sit on the bed of one sick person, then another sick person, and these patients were very specific patients because all would have died within 4 hours. To stun some doctors who had seen this to make the decision to try to figure out what could happen 4 hours before we died, try to understand what the cat would feel, to know that the patients will soon die, even if some are quite septic at the base in only 2 years. It will be more than 25 patients who will have died precisely within 4 hours after the cat has laid down on their bed. Even more incredible, he would never lie on a person's bed. He wasn't going to die in the next 4 hours. Most people actually just think that this is a big coincidence and that the cat is just very lucky, but there would indeed be something that makes the cat come to lie down 4 hours before on your bed. Doctors would be so convinced that as soon as the cat chooses to go and lie on a patient's bed, it would immediately contact the family and explain to them that potentially within 4 hours the patient can die. Currently, you should know that doctors cannot accurately give the date of your death based on your illness. They can give an estimate, but it's still impossible to be that precise. Oscar would be able to see, feel, or do something. He would make it stronger than the doctors, and in just 2 years, it will have become a huge star. He will even go so far as to make the rounds of the media. For some researchers who have studied Oscar, there may be several hypotheses that can be advanced. For some, it is claimed that in antiquity, cats would have been able to see the souls of people and would be able to know when a person is going to die, or even see his illness. For others, it would be the cat's extremely developed sense of smell that would allow it to feel certain, very specific molecules and that would allow it to estimate the death of patients. But at the moment, no one has any certainty and no one can give a real convincing explanation as to how the cat is able to determine the time of your death today. Unfortunately, little Oscar has left us, but there is still a plaque with his effigy in the hospital, and legend has it that the cat that could see the dead will have gone around. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to tell me in the comments, and if you have other topics like that you want me to cover in my next videos. If you are interested in moths and legends, you can go see all my other episodes. You can like, share, and subscribe, but we'll see you in a future video. It was Quake on Fire.